Designing a strategic marketing and sales conversion system is what drives predictable growth and increases both revenue and profitability. This is what Michela Quilici has to say, and we are so excited to have her today at the Grand Potential.
Thank you, and I am super excited to be here with you as well.
Awesome. Honestly, Michela, what you're up to is, we need it so bad in our businesses. We need to understand how to navigate our businesses with a strong foundation. And we just know that you're going to share with us some really great gems. The three values that we incorporate with the Grand Connection is connect, create, and collaborate. And what I'd like to start with in our interview today is connect. And I am curious about your journey to become so purposeful, to be this navigator in supporting business with your unique roadmap.
Thank you. It's definitely been a journey, let's put it that way, and the journey continues. And so my journey started 20 years ago, actually. I started off working for startups, really, entrepreneurially minded, fast growth companies. I spent 10 years working in that world before I branched out into my own coaching and consulting practice for the past 10 years. And so really I started off working my way from the bottom to the top in the marketing and sales world, and really supporting. This is where I learned from, really fortunate to be, have learned from some incredible COOs and CEOs on how to run and grow companies and how to really take them from that startup to that scale up and, that growth stage. So working my way up in the marketing world and supporting sales teams to grow revenue. And that's really where my on the job, if you will, training came from in that regard, and really learning how systems or how businesses work and learning how a business is really a system. And my area of focus was always on that revenue generation side of the business, that sales and marketing side. As I was growing and learning and developing my skill set and really finding some really great success with these companies, one company in particular, we grew over a very short period of time and ended up selling the company for multi-million dollars. And it was an amazing experience to be able to learn from some incredible people and get those successes. But, I was just not fulfilled at a certain point and really thought, is this it? Am I just going to be like growing and being promoted and getting, what's the end goal? The corner office and the VP title was just not, it wasn't doing it for me. And so I had an opportunity to leave that world and embark on my own business. And that led to, developing that. And that's what I've been doing over the last 10 years. So it's definitely been a journey to find that purposeful work. Mm-hmm. And through that learning, who I am and what I'm good at. And I realized that, I'm really good at seeing the big picture, but also the details and how that fits together. And I play in the world of strategy, systems, and self-leadership, because I feel like we are bringing our whole self to our business and to our work. And yes, we need, if we want to grow, there's strategies, that proven strategies we can lean into. There's systems that we know work that can help us leverage. But there's also that leadership as we continue to grow, stepping into who we are and stepping into who we need to be to go from being that technician in our business to really being that leader and that CEO.
It's inspiring to me in listening to you share with us your journey that you have been on. Is you're bringing all the skills and the expertise that you've had the opportunity to learn along the way to all the people that you're serving now. So that value is extraordinary. And I truly know that this is your calling. I can feel it. And you're really living your grand potential as an entrepreneur in your business. And that, I think, supports other business people to step up, to be the leader that they are meant to be. And so are you. So that's incredible. Thank you. Thank you for that gift.
Thank you. I always like to say, we don't have to tolerate what we've got. We can start, stop tolerating what you have and start creating what it is that you want. Most of us get into business, as business owners, we get into business because we're really good at a particular skill. We have this passion for helping people. But it's really when we can learn how to create that viable business and create that business that's aligned to who we are. That really then we can get that fulfillment and that purpose. And that comes from really understanding, what are we building? What kind of business are we building? And, what do we want that to look like? And then one of my greatest mentors said to me, it's the way to look at building a business is strategy, structure, and then people. So what is the strategy? What are we heading for? Where are we going? Structure, systems, right? How are we getting there? Just what's the structure needed to support our road, our travels to that place? And then people, what are the resources? What's the team? Who do we need to be able to then fulfill that? So I always remembered that, and that always comes up for me in terms of, strategy, structure, and people is just something that's always racing through my head. So when people come to me and they want to what are the latest marketing ideas? What do we need to do for marketing? What do we need to do for sales? Usually they follow a tactical first approach. And this is when we can get ourselves into trouble, because it's not about a bunch of different marketing tactics or activities. We never want to put tactics before strategy. It's always strategy first, so that we're really building it thoughtfully and purposefully, and then we're choosing the right tactics and activities for the job. It's like when you build a house, right? Making sure that you have, what kind of house you're building. You have the blueprint for what this house is going to look like, and then you go out and you get the right tools for the job, so that that when you use these tools and you do these things in that order, the house is going to be built on this foundation, and then it's like building blocks. So that's something I always keep in my mind as I'm approaching businesses.
Right. And that foundation piece is so significant. I love those 3 words too. So can you repeat those one more time for everybody? It's strategy,
structure, and people.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thank you. The next question I have for you is, when did you know that this truly was the direction that you were going to pursue and serve businesses around the globe?
Oh my goodness. It feels like it's an ongoing process. So did I know? Do I know? I don't know. It's evolving, right? But I think, there was a turning point when I knew that first turning point when I left working for others and really branching out on my own was the first turning point, which was, that's not really working for me in terms of my values. Mm-hmm. I really want to be the creator. I want to be supporting. I want to be helping and leading. And I knew that I could do it one way within their system, and that would be fine, but that wasn't feeding me. So that led me to striking out on my own. And then it was a series of turning points, where I realized when I first started out on my own, it was really more about marketing consulting and supporting people with that. But then I realized that I could provide plans, but then people were getting caught up with implementing the plans. And so I went out and got some coaching skills under my belt so that I could really help leaders show up in a different way and be able to do what they needed to do to implement those plans and those strategies and really show up as a leader. And it just kind of grew from there. And as I continued to just walk the steps, it became more clear to me where my skill sets were, where I was really being able to support people in the best way, and what really filled me up as well. So it's been a process of continuing to just put myself out there and being led by where I felt like it was really feeding me and where I was really seeing some results. And then the beauty is when we work on our own, we can shape what our business looks like and what we do and what we offer. So that is such a wonderful gift and a freedom that we have. We can make it what we want to make it. And I just think that's exciting, and it's scary at the same time because there is no blueprint for that. We are creating it as we go. We're building the, what's that saying? We're building the plane as we're flying it, so to speak. So there's always that balance of building the plane while you're flying it, but also knowing that there's a destination, there's an effective and efficient way of getting there. And so balancing those two, I find, is a really great recipe that's worked for me and may work for others too.
I agree. And I call it the grand, because everything's grand here. It's the grand potential. It's the grand connection. And I call that the grand adventure, because I truly think that we are on, when we're living on purpose in our business, when we are living and leading from our position of our values and serving to our deepest core self, to the world, that is our grand adventure. And I find it one of the most inspiring, invigorating journeys available to us. And I know you do too, Michela. That's wonderful. Thank you. And I'm going to pass it over to Susan now, and she's going to ask you a few questions about our second value, which is create. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So excited to be here with you, Michela. You know, we met, when did we meet? It was like 5-6 years ago at eWomen's. You were running eWomen's in Vancouver, right? You were the director here?
I was, yeah. I think it was 5 or 6 years ago that we met.
And I was at a stage with my web development business where I was feeling a little out of control. It was like I was having trouble managing the team. I was trying to take on more clients, but I couldn't handle them because I was managing everything myself, and project, like I had to be in everything. And I asked around, I said, who could help me get some systems into place? And at least 10 people mentioned your name.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that story.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Okay.
So I got your name and I called you up, and of course you did some work with me on helping me get some systems in place, and we went through an amazing process. And you know, I had booked you for a day, and you got out these pieces of paper all over the place, and we just started brain dumping all my problems. And then you magically just sort of started sorting them into different categories. Do you remember that day?
I remember that day. We had those massive giant Post-it notes that we put all over your walls, and we workflowed. We basically flowed out all your different processes, and detailed out step by step. And then you were able to, take that away and create this amazing mind map, I think, from that.
Afterwards, I put it into a mind map because, I love tools. I have it on my, this is why, like today, I sent you the mind map because I was trying to remember, what did we go through? Because now most of these are put into place and I kind of forgotten. It's sort of like, you go through this and it just becomes part of your business now. But we went through a specific process to do it. And what I didn't realize, the stuff about my onboarding a new client was one section, and everything just started going, this goes into onboarding. Then this was my stuff on managing my team. And then it was, you had, then that was things like my hour tracking and checklists for the team management. And what was it? We had lists of what requirements were for job requirements. Like it all was just like, all this stuff was in my head. And now from this, I was able to put it into something that I could duplicate, replicate, systematize, and grow with. And I could step back and people started doing the work on their own. And it was just an amazing transformation of my business. I would believe it almost, I would say, tripled or quadrupled my time that I had available to me afterwards. So
wow.
that, like it's so the process of doing something like this is amazing. And if we're talking to somebody new who's listening, what steps would you have them start thinking about to get going to systematize their business to be able to scale and grow?
Mm-hmm. Really great question. So it really depends on where they're at, right? So I think one of the questions that we talked about when we worked together, Susan, initially was to know where to dive in, right? Because here's the thing, it can be a painstaking process to go through, right?
Yeah. And it, it's not like I got everything done in a day. We prioritized. And I worked on the most important things and some of the ones that I could most easily implement right away to make a difference. And it's been 2 years. It took 2 years to really get through it all.
Yeah. And good for you for sticking by it and actually integrating it, because you're right. It completely shifts, the way you do business. And it actually, it's the thing that will enable businesses to scale, really, and beyond just yourself, right? And to be able to build your team and to continue to offer the level of service that that your clients need. So it really depends on what's falling through the cracks first, right? So so if we take a look at the business, there's different areas. So and we can move from the front end to the back end. So if we look at it from that perspective, so the front end is the marketing and sales side, right? So what are the gaps or what's falling through the cracks on the marketing and sales side of the business? And whether it's and what are you doing manually right now? Mm-hmm. So that would be the key. What are you doing manually? What's soaking up a ton of your time on that front end, where you're maybe duplicating things, you're reinventing the wheel every single time, you're rewriting the same email every time, or maybe you're still doing scheduling back and forth by email, not using an online scheduling calendar to automate the process. So what are those things that you're doing over and over and over again? That would be one way to identify.
And so one of the big ones I had, which I think a lot of us in that are listening can probably find, is I found I was trying to come up with quotes and estimates over and over again. And each time it was a process, and somebody would call me for something and it takes me 2 or 3 days to get something out because it was a job. It took maybe an hour to figure it out. So what I did was for my web packages, I made packages up, and these are my 2 or 3 packages I had. And now they're on my website. All I do now is I'm talking to somebody, I can even talk them through and say, go here on the website. I'm on the phone with them. These are the packages. And then I tell them the price for them, which I do. And then after the call, I send out an email. It takes me 5 minutes. It's done immediately. And just being able to follow through so quickly, as you know, in sales, follow through is big. I'm able to convert, my conversions and closes were way higher just because I was quicker. But it also saved me an hour or 2 time every time I had a quote or proposal to do. So that was really, and then having, I have some templates for RFPs. RFPs are still always kind of hard because they're specific to do, but those packages saved me a lot, and putting them on the website, big.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then there's always the anomalies, right? So maybe you do proposals for the bigger jobs, or maybe there's a special RFP situation happening. But the key is, what are those things that are repeated that you're doing all the time that you can create a package around or create templates around, where the base of the template stays the same, but then you're creating customization based on that particular client, for example. So definitely your programs and services, creating packages, creating templates, when it comes to the front end in terms of follow-up systems in that sales process. So if you're going to a networking event, what is your process Are you then sending an email? That emails can be templated. You can script out a lot of things that you're doing manually, and then just create that customization. So systems like using an online scheduler rather than emails back and forth to book times with you. Things like a CRM system that will help organize your business cards that you get from people at events or contacts that you make, and making sure that you then have a place and you're organized to put all that into. Making sure that you have a calendaring system. So whether it's a Google Calendar or whether it's some other form, I mean, I know a lot of people still use the paper calendars, book calendars, and that's fine. That works for some people. Whatever system is for you. Some people still use old school manila envelopes and folders and filing cabinets, and that's totally cool. It's just whatever works for you, the way your brain works and the way you like to do things. I'm all about building a business that's aligned to who you are, because if you're trying to be someone you're not going to do it, and you're not going to like the tools, and you're not going to use the tools. Having some sort of a calendar where you're also able to block your time is great. These are all things that help you. You use them as a dashboard. You use them as your guide in your business, so that you wake up in the morning and you have your email, your calendar, your CRM system. You know who you're supposed to call. You know what you're supposed to do. And you have a flow. So that's some of the systems on the front end, the marketing and sales front end, and the packages. Invoicing and bookkeeping is another big one. So, this is when we go from being a solopreneur to putting on the CEO hat. We go from collecting receipts and putting them in a shoebox to hiring a bookkeeper, or using QuickBooks, for example, as an online accounting program.
Yeah, and now the tools are amazing now, like QuickBooks. I just switched to QuickBooks Online, and I can just send those reminder invoices right away from, you're in there and you're just going through the receivables, what's showing, reminder, bing, 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 and it tracks and it says how many reminders I sent. So it's got the tracking in place. So it saves. Like, I remember doing this, I had my first business in 1991 and it was painful. The accounting was painful then. We were using ACPAC back then. It was. Oh,
I remember ACPAC. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That dates us, right?
Yeah. It turned into Bedford. I think Bedford Accounting after that or something, that I was the two names. And I remember I used that for years. And then when the year 2000 came, I was so panicking the thing would break, but it just turned into 0001 for the years, but because they didn't have the years in there. So that's kind of funny, but yeah, that's dated, very dated there. That accounting is a big, important system. What about hiring people? Is that how do you create systems around getting your team in place?
Oh, that's a really good one. So the first thing I like to do is, first of all, identifying who the right team member is really key. And then what activities they're going to be doing. So creating a job profile is key. So, knowing what that person's job is. So, what is it that you need support with? Maybe one of those first hires could be a VA, or it could be a marketing / sales assistant of some sort, somebody that can help you, on the marketing sales side. An admin assistant, a bookkeeper is a very good initial hire. Absolutely. And then it depends on what your business is. You might need a project manager if you have, various projects and that sort of thing. Or maybe you need a salesperson, or maybe you actually need, somebody doing marketing for you. So it really depends. But the profile is key. What are they going to be doing and what are they responsible for? But the other key piece is to really understand workflow. So one of the things that I like to do with my clients is to really understand what is the workflow. So if you were to flow out using a flow chart program, or draw it out, that whole flow chart. So from onboarding to, from marketing to onboarding to service delivery, that is a flow chart in and of itself. You've also got your sales process is a flow chart. Mm-hmm. So you've got your marketing funnel. What does that look like? Step by step, what is happening? Step 1, 2, 3. And then how does that flow into your sales process? And your sales process would involve, the sales process would involve things like, okay, you're having the discovery call. After the discovery call, what happens? Well, you are sending them a proposal. Maybe you are sending an invoice after that. You are sending them a welcome email or sending them your package. So that's what I mean by flow chart. What exactly are the steps in each of, it's almost like you.
Some of these things could be automated too in there.
Absolutely.
Everything we see that you're doing, like this is what Carolyn and I have been doing lately, and Carolyn's just jumping up and down right now. We've been trying to systematize how to get organized with our Grand Connection, because we started this as just an idea a year ago to start just running these webinars to help businesses with COVID to pivot, how to pivot. And it's just growing and growing and growing. And now we're like, oh, we're gonna, people are asking for a membership and we want to do all these things. So let's get organized. Let's figure out what are we doing over and over and over again that we're repeating. So those repeatable tasks, and we're going, Carolyn, because we've been talking to you. We've been talking to you and we're going, okay, Michela says that's a repeatable task. How can we systematize this? So everything, we've got templates now going galore. We're starting to, the other discussion I have, because there's two of us, is what's our naming conventions on things so that we can find the same stuff and save things the same way. Because when you have a team, how do you manage that? If everything's all just your way of doing it, other people can't figure out what you did.
Exactly. And that's when you need to come up with communication protocols. So when you are hiring team members, or even if there's just two of you, it's just getting super clear on what are the communication protocols. So, so what I mean by that is things like meetings, right? How often are we meeting? What types of meetings are we having? Are they weekly meetings? What is the agenda? Making sure all your meetings have agendas. Weekly meeting could be more task focused. Monthly meeting, taking that one step higher view. Quarterly meetings, annual meetings, etc. So there's, meetings, and what are we doing in those meetings? What platforms are we using for those meetings? Are we doing them on Zoom? Are we using WebEx? What are we doing? We like to, there's also email, right? So there could be communication via email. What does that look like? What kinds of things are we communicating by email on? And then there's also other quick tools that you can use within your team. My clients use either things like Signal, so all their team members are on Signal, or Slack is another tool. So it depends, but these are sort of chat features, or WhatsApp could be another way. I know a client of mine her team uses WhatsApp, and that's a way to communicate quickly back and forth. But we need to train people and we need to teach people on what those expectations are and when to use each type of communication channel and what's appropriate for each, so that everybody's clear and you like all
Slack,
are.
I can't put in a whole, it's a good conversation, but if I notice with my team, we use Slack a lot, or not Slack, WhatsApp. We're using WhatsApp. WhatsApp, we communicate by chat, and that's good discussions back and forth. But if I put in tasks that need to get done, because sometimes I'm just rushing and I can do it from my phone, it gets missed unless it's in the proper place where the tasks are. They might miss that because, that was just in the chat and we didn't catch it there. So
exactly. So the solution I have for that is to use a project management tool. That's another, especially for your business, Susan, I find with agencies or with professional service firms where there's teams. I have a client that has an engineering firm, 8 people on the team, all working on bits of the project. Or agency. I work with a lot of agencies. So everyone is touching the project at a certain place. So a tool like Asana or Trello or Monday, as an example, is a game changer, because you can take those processes, put them online in this platform, create the workflow, and really itemize, who's doing what, assigning people to different parts of the project, assigning timelines to the project, and documenting conversations around each of the tasks, tagging people, making sure everybody knows what's going on with the project. And then in combination with a tool like Slack for quick messages, then you can, Slack can really just become just those quick updates or questions that you have that need answers, but then referring people back to the Trello board or to the Asana project to get more details. And then along with that comes some sort of repository for documents. So whether it's Google, the Google Suite, Google Drive, whether it's Dropbox or what have you, but that is also a really, really great tool to organize your stuff. And especially if you have a team, you're going to need to do that, because that way everyone has visibility into what's going on. And, you just want to look at it in terms of it being like a filing cabinet. So you have different folders.
Yeah. So
right?
You know what happened to us recently? Carolyn said to me, and you're looking up now, Carolyn, this is our Google Drive is a mess. Because we just started doing it and we start putting things in there, but then over time you realize, oh, this should actually be in this group and this should be in this group. And then there's a bunch of stuff that's old. So what I've suggested we do now is we go through it and plan out what's going forward better, and stick everything that looks kind of old just in a folder called old, because it's too much work almost to reorganize that, but we might need it later.
Yeah.
So, and then the one thing I do always do, and this is because of my programming side and being an SEO consultant, is I put long titles for everything, so that if I do have to search, because search is now so good in all these tools where you have your files, you can find it. So I'll put the name of the project, the person that's involved, the any keywords that are related to it, so I can find it quickly. But we're going to stick everything in old, and then we're going to set up a new folders that are in a new organized way to start moving forward for the next, because we plan events. So everything is very repeatable. It's the same thing happening every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have a workflow, right? Presumably. So you've got speakers, right? And in the speakers, you've got speaker agreements, you've got speaker promotions, etc. You've got the marketing side of things. You've got the actual event logistics. You've got all the pieces. So that's why having that workflow helps, because once you see everything that you do visually, then you'll know what the right categories are that you can create those folders or those Asana activities or projects under. And then there's a logical sequence to things. Now, if you're applying to this to a business sense, within a business, there's different functional areas of the business. So in the business, you've got you've got marketing, you've got sales, you've got maybe operations as a bucket, you've got HR people as a bucket, maybe you have finance legal as a bucket, maybe you have strategic planning as its own bucket. And so then within those buckets, you can have sub buckets or subcategories. So that could be another way of doing it if we're looking at it from a business perspective.
Now, you mentioned the legal bucket. This always brings up the topic of setting the right expectations with your clients. What systems do we need for that? And, different types of contracts and stuff we should get into place to have those systems run smoothly.
So I'm a big believer, first of all, in really making sure that I've got my A team of people who are specialists in their particular areas. So when you are starting a business, usually it's just you, but as you are developing and you're growing, there's some key people you want to have on your team, and you want to make sure that you're leaning into those people in those special subject matter expert areas. So we've already talked about having a bookkeeper and or an accountant, at some point, depending on whether you're a solopreneur or you have an incorporated business. You may not need an accountant if you're a solopreneur, but accountant, bookkeeper, definitely on the A team. And the next person is a small business lawyer. And so through having somebody like that on your team, you can really lean into them to really find out what is it for your particular business that's a requirement. But I would say that at a very basic level, we all need some sort of client contract or agreement that we are using. So client contract agreement, definitely. Sometimes in some businesses, you need some sort of consent form of some sort. Depending on, sometimes in the health and wellness space, there's consent forms that are required. Sometimes there are, terms and conditions and privacy policies.
Yeah, those are big now with your website.
Exactly. Those are pretty big. I would say those are the key ones. When it comes to legal, bridging over to finance, then there's the invoicing side of things, and making sure that again, you've got your terms and conditions on the finance side of things.
Your payment terms.
Payment terms, billing, payment terms. And also proposals, right? So not only contracts where it's the fine print, but the actual proposal that outlines clearly, like, what's included in this agreement or this program or this service, and what's not included. And how do you handle certain situations? How do you handle overages? How do you handle no-shows, cancellations? What's your cancellation policy? How do you handle data collection? These kinds of things. And there's lots of tools and templates that you can find online for some of this stuff. Yeah. But again, I always like to say, small business lawyer will be really helpful here, where even if it's just having a look at the contracts and the agreements and the legal documentation you have, just to make sure that you've got everything you need.
In some cases, protect yourself. You do have this is a foundation that's so important. And I find over the years that I'm always, my TOCs, I'm always updating them, because something new comes up and you go, oh, I should have put that in the TOCs. That wasn't clear before, because something will come up that you didn't explain, and you have one interpretation of what the expectations are, and so does the client. And like for me, hosting, people, when something goes wrong with their hosting, I build the website, but I'm not responsible for their hosting. So if something goes down or breaks from the site because the hosting has changed something, I'm not responsible for that. But I have to make that very clear in my contract. And you just learn as time goes on. Another thing I suggest to clients to do, like this is with their privacy policies or their website terms, is to just look at what their competitors are doing too, people in their industry that are larger than them, because they most likely have already put in the effort, and take a look at some of those things to give them that start, so that you've got it kind of in place, and then you go see a lawyer afterwards and save a bit of the time of doing some of the prep work yourself first and have them review it. Exactly.
Absolutely.
And then find other people you can collaborate with. Carolyn, you'll start talking about collaboration, but you can, find other people who are in your space that are good colleagues of yours, that they can say, this is what I did. And you can share those resources. And then again, come back to your own lawyer, get your own legal opinion as well on things. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a smart thing to do. Another thing that just popped into my mind is any kind of insurance. So sometimes with some types of businesses, there's insurance requirements that are required. Yeah. It may, professional services, that may apply to professional services and maybe health and wellness practitioners or
well, even yoga teachers, they need insurance. So everybody, insurance is an important thing to research that and figure out your level of risk of what you want to have for insurance for your business, because this is your business. And then whether you incorporate or not too, those are other big decisions to make when you're talking to your accountant and your lawyer, who are part of your team that you have to get in place when you're getting started, that foundation that's so important for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's so much in this space. Oh my gosh. I'm looking at my mind map, and, we went through things like onboarding. We went through how to managing your passwords is even a system nowadays.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. That is huge.
Yeah.
Managing your inbox is also a system. So this is something that I run up against a lot with that, those business owners that are at that space where they're still, doing things on their own and getting organized. They're getting things organized, and they're needing to manage their time a little bit better. And it's amazing how many people don't think or don't know that they can create folders in their email program, and subfolders, and that they can actually file things in there.
Well, you could set up a filter that it'll automatically go in there too.
And that too. And that is so valuable. And finding little tips and tricks to help yourself manage all of this information that we have nowadays. Having 2,000 emails in your inbox is like a recipe for overwhelm, so there's also smaller tips and tricks that you can use that are like a system, that aren't necessarily, some of these bigger things that we're talking about. But even, for example, if you do have a lot of emails, you can use flags. I use flags. So I use red flags on each of the emails that are in my inbox, because I know those are the ones that I need to answer, in a particular time frame. And then there's other emails in there that are articles I want to read or things that I need to know about that aren't necessarily a priority for today or for this week. And I don't flag them. And so then I know when I'm looking at a bunch of emails, I know the ones that I've flagged in red are the ones I need to deal with either today or in the next couple of days. So that's a system, right?
Do you ever get back to all those articles that you were gonna read later?
You know what? Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. And it's at a certain point, there's just so much information out there that we just have to make decisions, right? What we're gonna look at and what we're not gonna do. And so the odd time, I will spend a bit of time and I'll put a task in my calendar that says clear inbox, and I'll go back and I'll read all the things that I really wanted to read. And other times I'll file things that I know that maybe I'll come back to them later. And sometimes
I have on Sunday night, I always spend an hour. I get a cup of tea and I go through it's almost like it's all the pieces of paper on my desk that get scribbled on during the week. but it's basically it's a system I have that's just basically redoing all the priorities and making sure nothing got missed. And then I go back through I scan through the week's emails. I mean, I delete them. I swipe them away on my phone whenever I'm in a line somewhere, all the stuff that's junk, right? But I do, we had a speaker, Mike Vardy, who's on time management and productivity. And he would take all of those articles that you were supposed to read, they would get filtered into the folder for reading. And he themes his day. So he has a day that's research and reading day. And that would be the day he would go to that folder and catch up on all those things. Cause he's a podcaster and a researcher and has, that's so important to his business, is keeping up on those readings. So it's interesting. And everybody has these systems. And the main thing is to figure out and work with somebody like you, Michela, so find out what systems, are best for you. And somebody like you can help a person and this is what you did with me, is you went through and basically asked me tons and tons of questions and all my problems and pain points. And they just started coming out. And I'm just like, well, this isn't working. This is working. And then why? And you drilled deeper until you found out what is the cause of the reason. And usually the solution is put a system in place, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the answer is it reveals itself, right? It's a lot of the times it's peeling back the layer of the onion. That's one of my gifts. I do diagnostics. I'm all about why. Well, why? Well, let's dig into that and let's figure out what's really going on, because only once we find out the root cause of something, I feel that we can actually create a solution for that, rather than just patching up symptoms. As we know, that doesn't really work for too long, right?
And this relates back to you talking about strategy, like, going back to that higher level part and then figuring out the solutions. Because a lot of times people do patches, and I don't know, I've been through so many collaborative tools thinking this is going to solve my problem. And the real problem is the team doesn't follow up and use the tool properly. And it was a team issue. And how to delegate that and have everybody committed to the process.
Exactly. But you can't delegate unless you know what it is that people are supposed to be doing. So it's, you got it. You just dig in deeper. Well, why is this happening? And what is actually going on here? Oh, this piece is missing. Okay, well, what do we need to do to get this piece clear? And if this piece is clear, then will that solve the problem? So a lot of the times there's some troubleshooting you can do on your own. But I find a lot of times where people tend to get caught up too is with these really long to-do lists, and they don't really know how to prioritize various things. So this is where it's really important to create a bit of a strategic plan. And I know that can sound like a daunting big project and a big word for a lot of small business owners, but it's the nuts and bolts of it is just getting super clear at the, typically I like to do my strategic planning at the end of the year for the following year. And it's just, on a one page, it's just getting super clear on what are my goals for the next year, 3 to 5 key goals. And in order for me to fulfill those goals, what are the key projects or activities that are really going to make a difference in, fulfilling those goals. And then from those key projects, you can then break that down into let's say quarterly activities, which then become, those weekly and monthly tasks. And that's how you can then make sure that you're working on the right things that are going to be leading you to the place that you want to get to in the first place. And when something pops up out of left field, or when somebody says, hey, you should be doing this, or this is a great next marketing idea, or what about this tool? Everyone should be on Trello now. You can take a look at your plan and say, okay, how does this thing fit into my goals and objectives or any of these projects? Is it going to help me move any one of these things along? And if it's not, park it and put it in a section called parked ideas or sandbox or something.
Yeah.
And just leave it there, right? And then you're revisiting the plan every month, every quarter, every year, and you're making decisions and adjustments along the way. But that's how you know then how that will guide your activities on a monthly, weekly, daily basis.
Carolyn, do you want to add anything in here?
I do. And, people in their businesses have so much purpose and passion for what it is that they do. And I just see them getting so lost, so confused, so disorganized, so distracted, exactly what you're saying, in all these different avenues and channels. Well, I'm going to try this. Oh, that didn't work. Oh, I'm going to go over here. Oh, this is a shiny object. Oh, I think this is going to be the answer to everything. And then they'll take that path, yet their energy, as well as their, purpose and passion, is so scattered that they don't accomplish what it is their true desire is within their business, which is to serve more people and monetize their business and receive that financial abundance. So for me, everything that you said now is absolutely true, bang on. And we all need to step up here in 2021. There is absolutely no doubt. I think we all know what we need to organize, implement, create that strategy, that structure, and find those people to support us, and have the willingness to let go of things that you really don't love to do. So it's this open mind to release, even though you know how to do it. Does it feed you? It's exactly what you started this whole process with. Does it feed you in your business to really be on and building that momentum in your business? If the answer is no, find a virtual assistant, find a bookkeeper, find someone else to do those specific tasks in your projects and let it go and have the courage to take that risk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Have the courage to fire yourself from those jobs, because let's be honest, in your business as the CEO, your number one job is getting clients and serving them, right? So as when you're first starting out, you're wearing all the hats. And so marketing and sales is key. And you're also serving and delivering the service. And you're also being the bookkeeper, and you're also, doing all the things, right? But as you grow, you want to be able to farm out and delegate, automate, or outsource bits and pieces, so that you can really retain that key piece, which is how do you continue to grow the business? And that is really about sales, and it's about strategically growing. And at a certain point, that CEO, then you're moving from a technician, the doer, right, in the business, to moving into the leadership position and really then just focusing on the vision and growth and client relationship and building the culture and the team and not so much getting pulled into the weeds of being the accountant and the bookkeeper and the everything else in the business.
Setting up the MailChimp newsletter.
Yes. Yeah. Doing all those technical things.
Exactly. And this leads into really our next core value with the Grand Connection, which I have been passionate about for 30 years, which is collaboration, right? So these people that we're going to bring onto our team, we are going to be collaborating with them and our power partners who can be a part of that sales and marketing process to collaborate with other businesses and create other programs, other projects, and come together. I mean, truthfully, Michela, that is what we're doing with you right now. And for Susan and I, we feel so blessed and so honored that you made the decision to collaborate with us and the Grand Connection and share your expertise, your wisdom with our community. So this is a perfect example of collaboration. And my question to you is, what are the characteristics or qualities or values that are most important to you when you make the decision to collaborate with other organizations or even collaborate to work with your different organizations that you serve?
Mm-hmm. Collaboration is so key. We cannot build a business doing it alone. We cannot do this, we can't be that island, right? As they say. So collaboration is key, and knowing where to collaborate and who to collaborate with and why you're doing it is even more important. So for me, it starts with understanding who I am and what I'm good at and what I'm not good at. And the type of where my genius is and where some of my growth edges or some of my limitations are, and making sure that I'm then collaborating with people and organizations that, I can have that connection with, where they're offering their genius that is different from mine, and I can offer my genius, which is different from theirs. So as an example is, I'm a strategist. I'm an architect. I'm a diagnostician. I build roadmaps. That's who I am. And I'm very detailed. I'm very structured. But I also take both an intuitive and a strategic approach, but generally speaking, I'm that strategy person. I'm the operational minded person. So when I collaborate with other people, I want to collaborate with people that are opposite than me. So like visionaries are really great for me, because visionaries have just, it's the possibilities, right? They're looking at the big picture, the possibilities, the future, and they bring a different energy into the mix. And then I can help with what I'm good at in terms of, okay, they've got this great vision. So how do we operationalize that? Or how do we make it happen? How do we take your vision and translate that? And I can translate that because I'm an integrator. So I help people integrate. So it starts with knowing who we are, what our genius is, and where the gaps are. Because I believe, in the business world, not everyone has a genius in every single area, but we do need to know where we need, that support. A lot of people, are really good at being the face and being the forefront. And some people want to be more behind the scenes. So if you are a behind the scenes person, then you need some help with that being the face, or, maybe, the marketing side of it. So that's what I look at, where are the gaps there. The other piece is value alignment. Mm-hmm. So making sure that there's a like mind there, shared values in terms of what I feel, what drives me, because our values drive us and they're a huge motivator. And we need to be aligned with people who are of like mind and shared values, because if we're not, we've all been there. We know what that's like. It just doesn't, there's misfiring. It just doesn't work. There's miscommunication. There's missed expectations. And so value alignment is super key. So for me, it's all about growth and purpose and leadership and, that authenticity, that really speaking in truth, and really having that, collaborative dialogue. Those are some of the things that are really important to me. So again, know thyself. So what are your values, and making sure then when you talk to people that you share that, get to know them and find if there's a fit. What I have found, because I have tried this collaboration thing for many, 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 many years. And what I've noticed is that I've had a lot of different collaborations that have fizzled away, or that haven't worked after 6 months, a year, 2 years. And when I look back and do a bit of a, reflection on that, I notice the patterns, and the patterns have typically been where their value alignment hasn't been there. And it's just too much of a difference between personalities and fit, that it's just, there isn't that that weaving, right? That back and forth, and that way of working together where there's that, you know what I mean?
I totally do. And I think anybody that's been in business for any length of time has had collaborations that didn't work. And I love what you said, which is we really need to take that magnifying glass and look at, well, what is it that really worked well? And what am I looking for? And also look at what didn't work, and know that you have a new position to take in the next set of collaborations. I think for me, collaborations, there has to be a absolute unison and dance from coming from the same purpose and perspective to serve people with a respect for each other, because you mentioned that having collaborations, and to really look at collaborating with people that may have strengths where you have limitations, and that they are really strong in their position of what those strengths are, and so are you. So you both help each other to lift up, and to respect each other for those differences too, and have that sense of compassion for each other, and really nurture each other to level up whatever sides that are different to come up higher. And I just think collaboration is one of the greatest success mechanisms in partnerships with other business, whether it be a simple partnership, setting up a referral, another business that you can refer business back and forth, or to doing large projects or events like we are with you, whatever that is, but to really be open, but also you mentioned to know yourself. We need to know who we are, what we stand for, and what's important to us, and share that.
I love that.
Last piece, which, because I love this so much, what is the clear expectation between both sides of the fence? What are you committing to? What am I committing to? So to have that really clear communication and understanding of how we are going to support each other on this journey. And
absolutely. Yes. And that's where those contracts come in. And those contracts can be verbal contracts. They don't, sometimes partnerships do need proper contracts, whether it's maybe a joint venture or a strategic alliance, or maybe even a referral partnership. Definitely can have proper contracts like that, so that it's clear and there's clear expectations. But I totally agree with you when you talk about the dance, Carolyn, and the respect and the transparent communication, and really that honesty. Mm-hmm. And what I find works really well with the collaborations that I'm involved in right now, after all these years of learning what's worked and what hasn't worked, and as I learn and know, understand myself better, is that oh my goodness, I lost my train of thought there for a minute. What was I going to say?
I'll tell you, I think that you're in a current collaboration right now that's working really well. And what you were reflecting on really is what you understand now versus where you were. And,
yes.
and the value of this current collaboration that you're experiencing, and you were going to share some elements of that, I think.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that prompting. So that vulnerability and that trust, building that trust back and forth, and really taking it from I love what you said earlier about the lifting each other up. It's this circular situation happening where, as long as we all come to the table with this intention of creating, mm-hmm. So we're co-creating something together, then that's when the magic happens, because everybody can speak their truth, they can stand in their genius, they're heard, they're listened to, and they're really being able to be creative and be innovative and share and just create something that is so rich and so wonderful together.
Well, and it's far greater than you would on your own.
Yes.
So it's like creating this amazing contribution to businesses at such a higher level that you could even imagine or dream that you could do on your own. And having those two sides come together to elevate that depth of contribution, I think is just extraordinary. I truly see this as one of the greatest tools, strategies, structure, people, process, everything you're talking about. So, and to us, to Susan and I, this is what the Grand Connection represents, is this incredible opportunity for people to come together, to be curious and see, could this be a collaboration for me? Could this be someone that I could partner with as a power partner? Could this generate new business for us? Could we come together to create that? I mean, so many different success stories that we have, even in just the last year, in the people that have made the choice to come to the Grand Connection. So, right, Susan?
For sure. It's been amazing, the amount of collaboration that has happened. And that's what's growing our business. Like from, one little idea, it's been all the people we've met along the way who we've done things with. Just amazing. I'm getting chills. I'm getting your truth bumps, Carolyn.
I call them truth bumps, because to me, my juice, my beautiful gratitude position here with being a part of the Grand Connection is all these extraordinary people we get to meet, like yourself, Michela, because it's an opportunity for Susan and I to show up and level up and think up and come up with all these incredible, resources and tools and strategies, and meet people who really are coming from the same place we are. Like, oh my goodness, how great is that? Woo, it just fills me up. I mean, my day today, my week is going to be brilliant because of the opportunity to collaborate. So,
and I bet you're going to make an agenda for every call now.
Could be.
Tip of the day, have an agenda when you're doing that call to make sure it stays on track.
I know. Okay. Well, that's where Susan's structure and my visionary, in the moment, that's how we help each other.
Yes, and it's beautiful, and I love what you're creating with the Grand Connection, and I just resonated with your vision and your values and what you're all about from the first 5 minutes that our first 5 minutes in our conversation that we had, because it's truly, so valuable to be able to support one another. And sometimes those collaborations they can be very simple meeting of the minds to get some ideas and some new energy and a new way of looking at something. Sometimes the collaborations are long-term. Sometimes they're very specific, and there's, expectations and agreements, and it can look all sorts of different ways. And I just love the fact that you're creating that space and that container for people to be able to meet and come together and meet each other and discover what the possibilities are. Because that's how we grow. That's how we don't grow in a silo.
No.
And so for people who are growth minded, and for people who are interested in learning and growing and contributing and all that good stuff, then those are the people who are really going to benefit and who are really going to show up and help others within the space of the Grand Connection. So I love that.
Yeah. And the one of the greatest powers that I'm so purposeful and passionate that we provide is mastermind groups. It's exactly what you just said. It's a simple, easy opportunity to introduce yourself for 30 seconds and then have a topic and a concept that they can brainstorm together as a group. People can experience perspectives from other businesses and see, that's interesting. That person's speaking my language. I think that I'm going to have to follow up on that person and see if we can work together. So even that simple, like you said, just being curious and observing, is this person a fit for my business? Okay, I could talk all day, but my last question to you is this: how can all our wonderful listeners of the Grand Potential out there connect with you online, Michela, to find out more about what you do and how they can participate with you?
Oh, thank you, Carolyn. So the best way is my website, michelaquilici.com. That's MichelaQuilici.com. And from there, that's the best place to then find me on social media and all the different platforms that I'm on. But that would be the best place to start, is my website.
So what we'll do is we'll have all your information put in the show notes as well. And I just personally want to thank you for your courage to really step up and show up in your business and serve in such meaningful ways. And it's inspiring from one entrepreneur to another, that just to witness, your courage and your commitment. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you for creating this space where I can show up and share my story, and we can have this rich dialogue to be able to, I know I've learned so much, and I already have all these ideas and different things that have sparked inside of me through this conversation. So it has been a pleasure to share space with both of you today as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Michela, for coming, and just to share with everybody the importance of getting some systems and structure, and the strategy first, the systems, and then the team. Very valuable. This is the foundation of our businesses, and it's what's going to hold it together to keep it growing, and for you to live your purpose and to share what you have to share in the world. If you have these systems in place, you can do it better. Thank you, Michela.